Here's what we're making for dinner tonight to make it through those last few weeks of winter. These red curry tofu cutlets are different from traditional red curry tofu recipes out there. They're basically a mashup between our tofu freezer trick, our tofu cutlet recipes, and my love for the flavor of all things curry, especially red curry paste. You can make this with any curry paste, switch it up for different flavor combos. If you love the flavor of curry, this is a great way to shake things up and make something a little new with your favorite flavors. So let's get in the kitchen and I'll show you just how easy it is to make. So first you want to prep your tofu. This recipe is easy, but it does take a little planning ahead. If you don't already have a block of extra firm tofu in the freezer, put one in there now. You want to freeze, defrost, and then press your tofu. You can use a fancy tofu press or any of the myriad tricks out there to press your tofu. We're old school, and this is what I do. This is my little setup here for my tofu press. I know I'm going to show you this every time I do. People like flood the comments with the better way to do it, but look, we're old school. This is what we like, and it works. It works for us. So do what you got to do to press the water out of your tofu after it has been frozen and defrosted, and then we'll pick up from there. While the tofu is pressing, let's make our marinade. Add 1/3 cup of olive oil. We always use oil-based marinades for these tofu cutlet recipes because it adds a fatty texture to the tofu that makes it a lot more like chicken. I don't recommend leaving it out, but if you're oil-free and you have to, I recommend subbing half the amount of vegetable broth or water. 2 tablespoons of our magical vegan chicken bouillon powder, 2 tablespoons red curry paste, or like I said, you can use any curry paste for this. Live it up, and 1 teaspoon curry powder. We're gonna whisk this up with a fork. Now I like to cut the tofu into 8 equal cutlets, and I'll show you how I do that. Cut it in half, and make these as even as they can. Mine are never, ever, ever even. I'm very bad at that, and it still works out. This recipe is forgiving, so don't be worried. Once you cut the block in half, you cut each of those halves in half, and then we'll cut each of these quarters in half. And that's the best way my brain can cut a block of tofu into 8ths. Now, my favorite way to marinate these is in a square glass baking dish like this. I think it's a 9x9 baking dish. I just feel like it fits very well. But I like to start by putting a little bit of marinade on the bottom, about half the marinade on the bottom. Then we'll spread that out. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. Then I'm gonna put my tofu cutlets on top. And feel free to like mash them up against the walls so some of the marinade gets on the sides too. This marinade is a very thick marinade. That is with good reason. We don't want it to put too much liquid back into the tofu. And I find a nice thick marinade like this works best. In the many, many recipes that I've developed using this technique. I know some people get scared because it's a little too thick, but it's fine. It's gonna work. Follow my instructions. I promise you it will work. And then I'll pour the rest of my marinade on top of the cutlets. Then just like the bottom, I want to make sure this is spread out as evenly as possible over the tops of all the cutlets. And again, feel free to shove your rubber spatula down there in the end to make sure all sides of them are getting nice and coated. Cover this and let it marinate in your fridge for at least 30 minutes. I'm going to try to let this marinate for most of the day until I'm ready to cook dinner. When you're ready, grab a baking sheet and preheat your oven to 350 Fahrenheit. Then we're going to transfer this tofu from the baking dish to my baking sheet. I like to flip them over onto the baking sheet. I feel like there's a reason behind it, but there might not be. Then we're going to take the marinade that's left in the dish and a silicone brush, and I'm just going to brush some more marinade on the tops of all of these tofu cutlets. And also just brush the marinade that's already on there around so that it's nice and even. I'm going to bake these at 350 Fahrenheit for about 40 minutes, and then I'll take them out to check and flip. When your timer goes off, you're going to flip these, and then this is optional, but before I put them back in, I'm going to brush them with, you guessed it, some more marinade. Excuse me, please silence phones during this event. We're not gonna let any of that flavor go to waste. I'm gonna pop these back in the oven for another 20 to 30 minutes. Ooh. I like to slice these tofu cutlets up on a bias. They look like little chicken cutlets, and I'm serving them with some jasmine rice tonight. You can also serve them with some curried veggies, some steamed or roasted veggies, whatever you want. A little salad on the side. So much flavor. Amazing texture, like our tofu freezer trick always yields.
Hi.
Hello, so the rustling of little footsteps.
Yeah, it smells good. What do you got? Hi. Hi.
Red curry tofu for dinner.
Okay, it smells
You
great.
want to try some?
Yeah.
I'm gonna use my fork even.
Really, really good.
Good.
I won't eat it all, I promise.
It's so good. It's so flavorful. There's 8 of them, so go ahead.
Okay. You're gonna love them.